I'm Chuck Norris, president of the United Fine Arts Federation. This is Danny Lane.
The history of martial arts can be traced back more than 1,000 years, starting in China, then migrating to Okinawa, Japan, and then Korea. Taekwondo, the Korean national sport and primary method of self-defense in that country, means punch and kick art. The hyungs, here in America called forms, are the foundation and base of all martial arts disciplines, especially Taekwondo. A dance-like routine, almost mechanical in its application, the techniques are taught by masters all over the world and interpreted as an imaginary fight between the practitioner and a multitude of opponents in a complete circle. Besides teaching the practitioner balance, timing, breath control, footwork, memory recall, and expressing the artistic expression of their physical techniques, what do all the different techniques and movements really mean? They seem almost senseless to dedicate years of perfecting each hyung. During this video series, this is what we're going to find out, the secrets of Taekwondo Hyung. Hello, I'm Danny Lane, National Director of World Martial Arts Centers, 6th-degree black belt in the Chuck Norris United Fighting Arts Federation, and master in Taekwondo. And welcome to my video series on the hidden secrets of Taekwondo. During this video series, I'm going to pass on what I feel are the real self-defense interpretations and applications of all the basic fundamentals, the hyungs, and the complete fighting system of Taekwondo. I think you'll be amazed. I hope this will educate you and enlighten and also open up a whole new world of knowledge in your study of Taekwondo. During this video series, we're going to examine the intermediate forms, Pyongan Chodan, Yidan, and Samdan. My assistant, Mr. B.J. Miller, will demonstrate the Pyongan Chodan. One move at a time, then we'll examine the applications of the self-defense movements, and then we'll do it at proper timing. Attention, bow. Ready, stance. First move, 1. Step forward, middle punch, 2. Half turn, defense, 3. Wrist release. Step up and throw back fist. Step out and punch. Center line, low defense. Knife hand defense. High defense. High defense. High defense, ki. 3/4 spin low. Step forward, middle punch. Half turn right low. Step forward, middle punch. Low. Step forward, punch. Punch. Punch, ki. Reinforced chop. 45-degree angle chop. 135-degree angle chop. And 45-degree angle chop. Return back. Ready, stance. Attention, bow. And this way, bow. Okay, I'll bring my assistant on, Mr. Perigo. We'll demonstrate the self-defense applications of the techniques. The first movements are very similar to all the other forms, the basic forms 1, 2, 2 advanced, and 3. So it really depends in your mind what technique you're applying on. Just to refresh your memory, basically the low defense can be used as a strike to the groin. If somebody grabs your clothing in the low position or high position, you can use it to knock the hands off. In the advanced interpretation, when your hands cross, you're coming over, coming into your arm bar, forward stance, stepping up, sliding into a middle punch. The rear defense, to review, could be from a wrist grab. You're using a cross step with your feet, coming up just like you would fold, twisting down, shifting into your forward stance. If you're facing this person here and they do a straight wrist grab, stepping back, shifting down. So you're bringing your hand away from the thumb, which is the weakest part of the hand, towards your center of energy, which is right here where the karate belt knot is tied, down. If they come forward with you, you're stepping up and throwing the back fist, and then following up with a straight punch to the chest or solar plex. Center line 2 movements, low defense, knife hand defense, can be interpreted 2 different ways. If you want to use them as strikes, strike groin, strike neck, or if it's a low punch coming in and then another punch, can use it as a double block. The 3 high defenses coming down the center can be, I interpret that as 3 different self-defense moves. If somebody grabs you 2 hands, you can use them to knock the hands up. If they try to strike you into the head, you can use it as a high block. And then also, if they're moving toward you, you can use it as a strike right up under the chin or to the neck area or to the chest area to push them back. The 3/4 spin, 2 interpretations, wrist grab, coming up. If you'll see, I'm reversing the grab here. This hand is up, striking down on the back of the ulnar bone or the base of the tricep. Moving forward, moving that person with me to keep them off balance, driving the punch down. Coming from the rear, same movement as over here. Coming up, twisting, moving forward, and punching. And if the head is down, low, then the armpit or the rib cage will be the next primary target. Going down the center line from here, if my person is grabbing here left on left, and I turn left 90 degrees, then my partner comes in front. So what you're seeing from here is as you move forward, that person is off balance. You've got the ribs, the armpit, and you've also got the neck. And we just do that 3 different times in order to pick up the concept of the form. What makes this form interesting is the next 4 movements, the reinforced low chops, can be interpreted many different ways. The 3/4 spin in the low chop, one way I interpret that, especially when we're sparring, fighting stance if you will, and I'll try to do it slow to first. When we're sparring a lot of times and people spar, they get used just to the kick. They just block it off and they throw a back fist or reverse punch, and that's basically for sport. But the footwork, if you do this correctly, if you're blocking back towards the ankle and then you're trapping the ankle, then you're spinning the person all the way off balance, then there's a throw involved here. I'll do this slow and you'll see where my left leg will then come set into here. And then you're in this particular movement. You're not going to end up in a perfect back stance with a chop position, but the self-defense application is there to put the man down into the onto the ground. The 45-degree angles going up left and right. I'll do it from this angle so you'll be able to see from my back side. Right leg in front if you will. So if we're fighting the person and we're at 90 degrees, a lot of times you're not going to be at a good angle to attack the person's leg. So what we'll do is shoot off to the side and then attack the thigh at a 45-degree angle, which makes it more sensitive. So instead of staying put right here and blocking, we move up at a 45-degree angle and chop. So doing it from both sides puts it like this. So whether you're going 90 degrees, 45, or 270, the angle is what makes the techniques effective. These are 45s. Actually, I went 90 there, shooting up 45 into here. Blocking and trapping, attacking that thigh, which will buckle this leg if I hit it, hard enough. So in review, On the three-quarter spin, if I'm blocking here and I'm trapping, I'm coming back, and I start to spin, the knee locks in against my rib cage, and you're right down for a follow-up move. It's a beautiful move for the streets, a beautiful move in tournament competition if you don't get called for holding. And you're ready for a follow-up. But you end up in the basic fundamental stance of the low chop. Also in the low chop can be against the hands. So if he shoots in a straight line technique, you're coming up the block, and you're in this angle here. As you go at 45s, shoot at the face if you will, or you can go into a spin of 270. Anytime you're spinning the man or your opponent, you're breaking their balance. Because if you deal with the pressure right here, the person's totally unbalanced. So as I pivot and spin, it breaks his balance, makes my technique a little more effective and easier to apply. Also, the 45-degree angles off of the punches, if you will, come from this angle here. Shoot a straight right hand. Will be like this. Left hand, like this. So you have to be able to use both hands moving at different angles. So the low chop is a very devastating movement. The footwork depends on how you want to attack or if you want to spin the person off balance. Now we have the Pyongan Chodan executed at full speed. Mr. Miller will be back on. Pyongan Chodan at full speed. Ready? Fight! Paro. Attention bow. Good job. And that concludes the Pyongan Chodan. The second form in the intermediate series is Pyongan Yidan. Attention bow. Ready stance. Miss Amy Ashworth, one of my black belt assistants, will demonstrate it move by move, and then we'll break down the self-defense applications. First move, look left, double defense. High and outside defense, uppercut, slide back, and do side punch. Look shift to a cat stance, double defense. Punch, slide back, and side punch. Look right, step up left, cross over to cup and saucer, side kick, bottom fist, center chop. Center line chop, block spear hand ki. Three-quarter spin, middle chop, 45-degree angle chop, 135-degree chop, 45-degree angle chop. Outside defense, twist jab, kick, punch, block jab, kick, punch, reinforced outside defense. Three-quarter spin low, knife hand, 45-degree angle high, low, knife hand, 45-degree angle high. Return back center. Okay, attention bow. Okay, now I'll break down the self-defense applications with my assistant, Mr. Perigo. The Pyongan Yidan has a lot of advanced movements because this is the first form that you're getting into doing two things at once, two defenses going at the same time. Now, originally, many years ago when I was first taught, it was interpreted, and also I've seen in a lot of magazines, that when you're having two defenses going at the same time, that there must be two people attacking you exactly at the same time. I feel like that's probably improbable from a standpoint that it's very difficult for two people to simultaneously attack you at the same time unless they say, okay, 1, 2, 3, attack. Because in a multiple attack situation, usually individuals are moving spontaneously at you from different directions at different times. So basically, I interpret the forms just a little differently. The first move of the form, first of all, anytime you'll see the hands like this in a lot of the different katas, not just the Taekwondo katas, but the Okinawan, the Japanese, the Chinese. This is called a cup and saucer. In the cup and saucer, many times, if somebody grabs you and you bring your hands to your hip bone in the wrist lock position, you're locking the hand in right here where your hip bone is. This is where your center of gravity is. This is where you're strongest around your center. So a lot of times you can be preparing for a move or you can have the person in a wrist lock position. If I raise this hand up, it raises him perfectly up for the strike to the side of the neck. Then you have this particular movement where you're coming from here into here. So if somebody grabs you and you shift to a cat, and you immediately raise it up and you step out to a back stance, you have the strike right to the side of the neck. The second movement in the Korean version, I'm doing the Japanese version first, is a strike here and then a strike back to here. So a very fast, repetitious self-defense sequence would be 1, 2, 3, 4 coming in. Second interpretation, the Taekwondo interpretation, if somebody's punching you and all these work, can block, this hand being up here can be the preparatory move for the next move, where you grab the person, pull them in, and shoot an uppercut punch to the chin, slide back, and then attack with a side punch. So we have two different nice self-defense moves from this to this. Once again, I'll break it down. Wrist throw, up, strike, strike, strike. Second one, block, grab, punch, shift back, and side punch. Okay, the same thing comes to the rear. So if you can do it against the right punch, you must have to be able to do it against the left punch. So if somebody grabs you left, and you shift here, you have the same sequence of moves. Up over the head, exposing the neck area, coming across, and then back up to the head. This can also come there. The second interpretation, the Taekwondo version, or Tang Sudo, punch, and then step and do the side punch. The next sequence of movements are here, to here, to here, and side kick. I'd like to demonstrate that from this angle. Somebody grabs you, you're coming set. If I step back and turn sideways, this way, I already put him down. As I turn him in here, see the hand comes here, which represents me grabbing his hand. But when I bring up to my left hip and load up for a kick and load up for a strike, I'm able to simultaneously strike to the knee and strike to the side of the neck or the head. But primarily the self-defense move is here, here. If you want, you can kick the back leg if it's closer. For a lot of people, always ask me, well, how do you side kick and bottom fist at the same time? Because the leg is longer than the arm, and primarily the self-defense application would be shorter range kicking. It's a very devastating movement. So after you do the movement here, 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 you turn and go to the center chops. And the center chops, I'll do at this angle. If you're doing a left hand in front center chop, it's going to be against a left punch. Here, here. If you're doing a right hand in front center chop, it's against a right punch. Left, right. The block and the spear hand. Somebody shooting, especially a weapon defense, because a spear hand to the jugular notch or to the trachea, the larynx, can be very damaging. Could even be life. So as the hand comes down, it's like when we spar. I interpret that as a parry block. Also, it helps redirect the elbow to shooting that technique in to the throat for the self-defense movement. Slowly, 1, 2. Now, the three-quarter spin into here is kind of similar to what we did with the kicks. If you will, come over here. If he throws a right punch and I block here, I have to deal with the person still standing in his stance. If I spin him around and then strike him as he's off balance, that makes my move more effective. Just to spin alone can take the person down without the hit. So it's kind of similar to a lot of the other martial arts disciplines, movements where you blend with the movement as opposed to attacking force with force. You blend. If he's on balance, then your follow-up chop here. So they're very nice movements. Also, go left this time. If I just come in at a 45-degree angle, so the 45-degree angles mean instead of standing right here, taking the aggression, you move inside and hit. Move inside and hit. Sorry. Once you block the wrist properly and you look at the way that the wrist is made up and the way the energy flows, the nerve centers, you can also see his hand already getting red because I'm striking back towards his wrist, making his hand just a little bit looser, at the same time activating those pressure points, stretching out the arm to make the neck even more sensitive. So what you're doing from this is pulling back, locking in tight, and then really going in to your offensive movement to the chop. So the three-quarter spin, you can take the person three-quarter, you can take the person 45-degree angle, 90, whatever. But the movements, the devastating movements of here and here and here and here are based on how you want to attack the person. When we spar, we basically do a lot of 45-degree angle fighting. For instance, if the person throws a round kick, instead of trying to throw a reverse punch back, a lot of times we'll step at a 45-degree angle and attack. And just that simple little step opens up the target to attack. And the same thing is true in Nakatas. Now, going back down the center line of the forms, we have this particular movement, and then this movement, then the kick, and then the punch, then another outside defense, and then a twist, then a kick, and then a punch, and then a power reinforced attack. So I'd like to now break down those movements. First movement being an outside defense, and I'll do it from this angle. Of course, just on the basic surface, it can be against a punch. If somebody grabs you, right hand if you will, it can be a forearm particular strike, or just basic karate interpretation: block, jab, kick, and punch. And most everybody can understand that. So whether you're fighting or not, 1, 2, boom, 3, and 4. If he throws another punch, 5, 6, boom, 7, and then 8. So it's teaching you fighting combinations. But once again, inside these particular movements, you can punch right up with a forearm strike. So it depends on really what you're interpreting and how you want to apply your movements. This particular movement here, throw left, right hand. A lot of people say, well, if you need more power, you're smaller, you got to reinforce your blocks. And that may be true to a certain point. But the hand resting right here, just above the elbow, this particular pressure point, if somebody grabs you, with your hand going here, it's very sensitive right here. So when you attack the arm at this point with your knuckles, that just really breaks this leg down and pretty much disorientates him for the strike. So you can use it as a block, or you can take your knuckles right into their arm at the same point and come in just like this. And anytime you've got something like this, then there could be something in between it. So that's a nice movement coming in like that. Because a lot of people have strong arms, so you're attacking with the knuckle right into the point here, and then you go on. Now the spin movements over here are still fundamentally the same as the rest of the forms, because you're spinning and you're doing a low defense, which we interpreted as several different throws or even a spinning bottom fist, two-hand grab, if you will. So the spin is what makes the move work. 1, 2. Somebody's coming from a 45, a different angle, you can strike or block. Same thing over here. You can turn and strike if somebody's behind you. 135, you can turn and strike. If somebody's there, you can block or you can strike. Most of the Taekwondo forms end in a defensive movement, because the philosophy behind the martial arts forms are that they're defensive techniques. And so most of all the Taekwondo movements and forms end in a defensive movement. So it could be a block. But once again, it depends on how you want to use the movement. My assistant, Miss Ashworth, will now come back on and demonstrate Pyong and Yidan at full form speed. Attention bow, ready stance. Pyong and Yidan. 8! 1, 2, and 3. 1, 2, and 3. Up nice and easy, and Hado. Attention bow. Nicely done. And that is the form Pyongan Yidan, the second in the series of the 5 Pyongan forms. Okay, now we'll demonstrate the Pyongan Samdan, the third in the series of the Pyongan movements individually, and then we'll break it down once again into self-defense applications, and we'll demonstrate it at full form speed. Ready, stance, attention, bow. Ready, stance from B. First movement, ready, look left, 1. Outside defense, step up, double defense, 1 and 2. To the right rear, 1. Step up, set, double defense, 1, 2. Center line, reinforced, step, and spear hand, spin, to the bottom fist, sliding, and second punch. Ready, set, hands up and down. Ready, crescent kick, 1 and 2. Crescent kick, 1 and 2. Another one, crescent kick, 1 and 2. Step and set. Straddle, spin, look, jump, center, auto, ready, stance. Tension, bow. Okay, now we'll come in with my assistant, Mr. Perigo, and we'll demonstrate the applications of the movements. Once again, the first block, which is this, back stance, usually is a defensive motion. Can be a number of techniques, can be a block. As you step up, you can do a punch, and then you can do a double strike at the same time. Nose and groin, nose and groin. If it's against a grab and somebody grabs you, two-hand grab, you can do the same type of techniques. Double spread block, like so. Up, like this. So you can block, and if they grab you, you step up, and then break the holds, like this. So you have to be able to work them both ways. Over the top, if this one comes over the top, then this one comes down, and up like so, or vice versa. So a lot of times in self-defense situations, if you do these movements, they can be used not just for blocking, but for striking at the same time, simultaneous type strikes. The back knuckle to the nose, the striking to the groin at the same time. Going to the rear, pretty much the same thing, just working on both movements so you don't have any weaknesses. If somebody grabs you, just this defense alone can knock the hands off. You can step up, you can strike, or if somebody grabs you, you can knock their hands off with a double spread. First outside defense. In our last form, we demonstrated that as either a power block, or if somebody's grabbed you, a strike into the pressure point just below the elbow. Let's turn this way so they can see this one here. And this particular point is right here. So you're pinching that in, sandwiching that particular move in for the strike. The next movement on this particular one is a twist and a step. So you're coming down the center line, 1, 2, 3. We had this in another form as a block. This spear hand, come this way if you will, shoot a strike. This spear hand, if you will be going into the pit of the stomach, the solar plex or the sternum, in here. If somebody grabs your wrist and you spin and tuck, then a self-defense move would be a spin bottom fist strike. So the most common reaction when somebody grabs your wrist is to try to pull away. In an earlier form, the Chodan, we went like this. But a lot of times people will pull away and they can't pull away. But if you go with the pressure, then you have the spin bottom fist. And the next move is just basically a step, straight punch to the chest or heart point. In advanced martial arts, if you know all the pressure points, the meridians on the body, the way you punch with specific knuckles, the techniques can be more effective. Basically, the chest is some of the strongest muscles on the body. So when you hit in the chest, it doesn't hurt unless you go right between the breast. Right between the breast point right here is a heart point. It's one of the most damaging points that there is to strike, but you have to get a knuckle straight in there. That's why a horizontal fist usually will not reach through there, especially if a man's pectoral muscles and chest muscles are big, so you have to kind of go in just a little bit of an angle here and get the knuckle straight in. The set motion is against a grab, pretty much against a grab. The other motion is the crescent kick. If somebody coming down for the crescent kick, you're set, you come up with a crescent kick here to the face. But what I'd like to demonstrate there would be the crescent kick by itself is a point by itself. But after the crescent kick, there's a stomp. And then I use the elbow in here for the kidney. So if somebody starts to move at you or you're fighting and you hit them with a crescent kick, you can stomp their foot, hit them with an elbow, then come with a back fist to the side of the head. I'll do it at this angle as well. So after this position, forget about, coming from this position, but if you're just in a fighting situation, you do the crescent, and then the stomp, and then the elbow to the kidney, then a back fist to the side of the head. That's one interpretation. Or if just somebody grabs you, we're in a combat situation, and you stomp their foot, hit them with an elbow, come with a back fist, it's very effective there. Against a grab, this technique coming in here can be just a arm bar. So just breaking down into here and then following up with a back fist strike is very effective. Another interpretation we use for this, if we're sparring, a lot of times we'll just turn in and block, like so, and come in with a back fist. So from the forms, you can learn some nice sparring movements. 1, 2. So it looks like that your guard is open, and when you turn in, it's perfect for the counter. So there's 3 basically interpretations for that. The foot stomp, the elbow here, the back fist here. Somebody grabs you, break the balance, the back fist here, spar sides with the left leg and the right leg as well. Coming up to the straddle leg stance and spinning, basically a lot of the movements in the forms are just like gymnastics or acrobatic moves. They're for the skill involved in doing them, the spin. But the elbow, if somebody grabs you this way, there's no targets right here. But if I move to the side and do an elbow over the shoulder punch, it's a self-defense move. Same thing here. So there's pretty much simple interpretation of those particular movements. So once again, the new movements in this particular series that we haven't covered in the other forms, now that we're doing 2 things at once. So a lot of people find that they can do this and do that, but now practicing doing 2 moves simultaneously at the same time. Grab, knocking the hands off. Or you can knock the hands off and then come in for the strike. So if somebody grabs you, 1, you could knock the hands off. 2, you could come in for your counter strike. It just depends on the angle that you throw these. Same thing from the rear. First move possibly here. Second move possibly moving in for the strike to the groin and then strike to the head. Grabbing down the center line here, striking in here. The next move, moving forward with the block spear hand to the solar plex, the spin bottom fist, and then just driving a straight punch. The set movements, basically against the hold, but in the form it's a balance move. So after you're halfway, you've got to hold your balance up like so, and then come down, set. And so then you have a series of movements in here where you're sparring like this, sparring, or using it for an elbow, and coming in, or a stomp and an elbow and a strike. So there's a lot of nice hidden self-defense movements in the Pyongan Samdan. Now we'll do it at full form speed, and you'll be able to see some of these movements inside the form once again. Attention, bow. Ready, stands. Pyongan Samdan.
Pyongan Samdan, sir.
Hey! Hello. Attention, bow. Very nice. That is the Pyongan Samdan, the 3rd in the series of the intermediate Pyongan forms. Now we're going to demonstrate Pyongan Sadan, the 4th in the series of the 5 Pyongan forms. Mr. Jason Beveridge with indications, and we'll do it at proper form speed. Ready, stance. Attention, bow. Attention, B. Pyongan Sadan. First movement. 1. Double defense. 2. Double defense. 3. Cat stance, shifting to cross block 4. Reinforce. 5. Come up and set. Side kick with a bottom fist, cross elbow. Set. Side kick with a bottom fist, side kick, elbow. 1. Low block chop. Kick. Lunging back fist. Spin set. 135. Lapel grab choke. Push back kick with pull punch. 1 and 2. the right, 90 degrees, lapel grab choke, push back, kick, punch, punch. Center line, reinforce defense, reinforce defense, reinforce defense. Grab, knee, back this way just a minute. Okay, attention bow. All right, now we'll break down the self-defense applications. Many of them are similar to the previous forms. Once again, there are a few other new interpretations, new self-defense movements inside the forms. So you can see, just with the three basic forms, the four basic forms that we covered earlier, now we're going into the fourth Pyongan form. If you just knew all the self-defense movements and all the individual basic blocks, punches, and strikes, that's a whole self-defense system by itself. So you can see how people, if they just master the forms and the basics, they can be you're coming up into this particular position. Once again, some people interpret as two people striking at you exactly at the same time, but unless their strikes are exactly at the same time, then it's going to be a little bit off balance. Once again, if somebody grabs you, grabs like the wrist, and you're bringing this hand up, and you're exposing that hand, and then it opens this up. So when you bring and you elevate the arm, it activates the pressure points in the side of the neck and makes them a little more sensitive to attack. So off of this can be like this here, coming up. Also, if he throws a punch here, and I block it up like this and come in and strike. A lot of times in sparring, let's go back to sport fighting a lot of times, and I've taken some of the Pyongan movements just to apply to my sport fighting. For instance, if a person throws a back fist at you, other side if you will, just throw. A lot of times people will block, and then they'll throw the reverse punch. But in the forms, a lot of times when we have this, or we have these types of movements, two movements going at the same time, the block and the punch speeds up the process of the technique being delivered. So instead of 1, 2, which is two individual movements, even though as fast as you can do them, sometimes it's still too slow against an experienced fighter. So what I started doing was blocking and punching at the same time. If you go back to the forms, those movements are in there. So instead of blocking one move and then punching another one, we just started at the same time. And then we speeded up the process of the technique, and we were scoring instead of being blocked on. So that's one reason we do some movements at the same time. This particular movement's up, so against a grab, or somebody striking at the head, you can block and strike at the same time. It really depends on what you want to do. Okay, same thing to the rear. The reason you come over here and do it this way is because you're working one this way and one this way. So if somebody's striking here, then you have the same type of movement when you drop down into the stance. Or if somebody grabs this wrist, you're elevating up, and you're striking right there for the movement. Center line cross block, several different interpretations on blocking a kick. I'll do it from this angle, though. The reason we tell you to close your fingers when blocking kicks, so you don't get them kicked and broken and so forth. But blocking a kick is a nice offensive movement. I usually block a kick and then I'll grab it on my self-defense movement. So that's a movement all by itself. Next movement against a power punch here, or somebody grabs you. Once again, we did this movement into striking, breaking the person's balance and his momentum with that particular movement there. The next movement covered will be over here, where we come up off of a grab, we come set, we load, we side kick bottom fist, but in this particular sequence we come on in with a grab of the head and an elbow smash. So, self-defense movement, 1, and we got the side kick, we got the bottom fist, then we have the elbow smash to the head. Same thing over here, so you learn both sides. You come into this position, you load, you kick, you come in, and you smash. Next movement is here. So a lot of times if somebody grabs you here, you can shift back into here and come on up into here for your strike. If you want, if somebody strikes at the head, you can block and strike at the same time. It really depends on your application. Low strike in here, 1, and then 2. Like I said, if they grab you and you bring this hand up, then you hang. When this hand is elevated in pressure point attacks, it activates the strike on the opposite side of the body a little bit more. So when I'm in this move here, I'm preparing here to strike. So I'll come up, and I'll pivot and strike, and you'll have that movement. the kick. We need to cover distance with the back fist. Anytime you're shifting your body weight, we covered the cross stance in tape number 1. Let's say if you're very close to a person like this, and you don't really have a lot of room to move forward with your body, with the front foot. If you watch my feet, a lot of time to get balance is the rear foot comes up and crosses. So if I hit just with a hand, there's power there, but there's not maximum power there. Lock in the stance, then you're transferring that body weight from the back foot up. So if there's not room to move forward with the front leg, you can still get power by crossing that momentum up and striking. So a lot of times in a lot of the forms, you'll have these particular movements interpreted by moving the body weight up and shifting the weight to add the dimensions of the power. Next sequence in the form is coming back off of a cross lapel grab, coming at this angle. You have a lapel choke. Now you can use the lapel to choke with. I like to use the knuckles of my fist in against the trachea. No matter how loose the jacket is or whatever, you can still apply pressure. I don't apply pressure in, but I apply pressure down. And that makes the person want to bend their knees down. So this particular motion here basically is a set or a preparatory movement for somebody trying to grab you. Then you come in and you grab them. The left hand pushing back is to give yourself distance for the kick, and then the punch, and then the punch to the face into the solar plex. So once again, this going to this is the lapel choke. The one hand pushing back is to give yourself enough room to fire the kick, and then throw the double punch combination. Same thing applies over here. We just do it 2 different directions. We have the lapel grab choke, the push back, the kick, and the punch and the punch. The center line moves, which were hard to see a few moments ago, were all reinforced outside defenses. And there were 3 of those, going down the center in a back stance. Coming at this angle here, knuckle to knuckle, knuckle to knuckle, and twisting. The move here to here, basically, say he throws a punch, and you can either spear hand, or you can reach out and grab, and then knee. So it's basically the way you interpret it, either here, or here, 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 and then here. Basic self-defense move where you're reaching, grabbing the back of the head, coming in with a knee strike. The spin chops, we already covered previously at 45-degree angles to the up position, which would be against the left here and over here against the right. So there are some new self-defense movements in this Pyongan form that weren't covered in the other ones, but also there's still some similar movements that are still carried over from form to form to perfect. The movements I like in here are, once again, the grab, if you will, are elevating and then coming up for the chop in here. Really makes the neck sensitive. Raising this arm up above his heart is what makes that more sensitive. When the arm is up over the head, makes it more sensitive. The other movements are the lapel grab choke is a very devastating technique. So when you're in here working here and you push a person back and then you fire your kick, then it all works. The other movements we covered, the pinch and so forth. Another new movement is reach. You can either strike or strike and then come in with your knee attack at that point. Now we'll perform the form at full speed, Pyongan Sadan. Attention bow. Mr. Beveridge will demonstrate Pyongan Sadan. Ready? Fight! In return. Attention bow. There you have the Pyongan Sadan. Now we're working on the fifth of the Pyongan series, Pyongan Odan. Mr. Beveridge will now demonstrate move by move. Attention, bow, ready stance, Pyongan Odan, first move, 1, crossbody punch, 2, set, 3, crossbody punch, and set. Move forward, defense, cross, high, twist, and 1. Spin, kick, stomp, 1 and 2, kick, and elbow. Back knuckle, the jump, reinforce, double defense, twist, spin, down, and back. Return. For all the hidden individual self-defense movements again. A lot of times in the higher ranking forms, the Pyongan Odan form generally is taught at the red belt level. And you're getting close to black belt at that point. And pretty much you've got enough snap in the upper body that you don't have to use the hips as much, especially in close quarter combat, where you don't have really a lot of room to twist your hips, and you're starting to work on just the snap of the body. So the first movement there with the outside defense, if you're close quarter combat and you can't really fully twist, you're just getting the snap. So it's 1, 2, here, to here, getting enough snap just with the arm and the body here, but the stance does not shift. So that's the difference in a particular movement, here to here. If you want to come up into the next set here and then cross over, it depends. These are preparatory moves for the next block or defense, or any time that you have your hands like this, it can be a throw. So we could interpret this first move as a block, a crossbody punch, a grab, and a throw to here, in for a defense. So 1, 2, boom, 3, and we're down. So those first 3 movements can move rapidly together. Then the hands cross over here. You do the range to move your hips. You're punching, you're coming in, and you're settling in for your throw, your wrist lock position. 1, 2, boom, 3. And shifting from my back stance to my closed stance is what I use my body weight to shift back, and pulling into my hip where my power zone is. Moving down the center. We had this in the last form, the Sadan form. The cross block this time would have the overhead strike. So as you're moving into the cross block and strike, we have a deflect where the hand comes up in spear hands or eye gouges, your preference, and then following up with a punch. So simple self-defense combination against a kick and an overhead strike would be 1, 2, 3, 4. I'll do the deflect a little slower. There's 2 different types of self-defense moves pretty much hidden in here. From the deflect, the right hand's on the inside. The back of the left hand just basically parries the hand off to the side, and it rolls on up in a circular fashion and comes right into the pit of the throat, or if you wanted to, it can be an eye gouge. But basically it's a spear hand, horizontal spear hand with a follow-up punch. If we're going to a weapons defense, if we have to block the weapon, first of all, if you're having to block a stick and the stick is a long object, it's always best to be inside, but you can't always choose sometimes things that are happening to you for best. If you happen to block a stick or something other than the arm, it's not advisable to block with a bone, the owner bone here, because this stick's going to win every time. But if you block with the muscle portion of the forearms, it's going to minimize the shock. So when you're blocking in like this, and then you're circling back with the right hand, a second interpretation, as you circle back with the right hand and pull towards you, it will pull the opponent towards you into that spear hand. Then you're able to use the weapon for the follow-up strike. So block, and it rolls straight down to your hip bone. As I pull towards my hip, I'm pulling the person in, and then you follow through with a strike. It's a nice self-defense move we teach in law enforcement. So this particular move had 2 interpretations. One, against an overhead strike with a hand, just deflecting it off, or even if it was with a stick. As long as you block this way and deflect it, you're able to at least follow up. minimize the shock. Instead of just blocking and stopping it, just redirecting it and let it be real smooth and soft, and following up with a punch at that point. The next set of movements coming into here. Let's look at a grab first. This particular movement, first of all, two-hand grab. If I want to use the inside defense movement and do like this, just a two-hand smack will bring your hands together like this. So what you're doing is sandwiching the hands together. There's one interpretation. If it's a one-hand grab, if I support his hand here and strike the bicep, that's another self-defense application for this move. Coming in here. If you want to go to the head, it's the same thing. You got two forces coming together at the same time, and that's where you're going to get maximum force. So if I hit here, his head goes this way. If I hit here, his head goes that way. But if I have two forces that meet in the middle at the same time, then you're going to get maximum impact at the point there. So the form, when you're turning around and doing this particular movement and moving into your crescent kick, can be basically if somebody grabs you from behind, you can turn around, two-hand grabs if you will, turn around and knock the hands off. You kick to the face again, and you stomp this time and strike into the groin. So the stomp bottom fist is stomp bottom fist here. That's one self-defense move by itself. So I mean, if you're attacked, and even in women's self-defense or kids' self-defense, if we teach same move. So it's a nice self-defense move there. It's kind of hidden in the form. A lot of people don't pay attention to the stomp. But if you stomp the instep, psychologically, your brain goes to your foot. At the same time hitting the groin. The next move in the form goes 180 degrees back this way. Now, first of all, you can interpret that as, one, a backhand strike. But if you're looking at it from this angle, the back of the knuckles, especially if they're developed and big, are your weapons as well. If you hit to the temple or hit to the side of the neck, it can be a very devastating type of move. A lot of people interpret it as just reaching and grabbing and then kicking and going into your elbow strike. But the form here is a backhand kick and then an elbow. First of all, the crescent kick is a medium-range technique, so if you can punch, first of all, you can kick the person to the face and still elbow them. So the backhand can be interpreted either as a strike or a grab of the hair, followed up with a kick to the face, and then an elbow strike. Good self-defense, good street self-defense movements there. Moving on into the rest of the form, the double defense is here. In grappling, a lot of times, if we move back, you almost saw the double spread block, but if I move back into here, and then I reach in, this is a self-defense move, which is a groin grab. Underneath, and then a twist. So to grab into the groin, squeeze, and twist is one of the more devastating self-defense moves. If you reach to the groin and the person instinctively grabs your hand, which they'll probably do, the hand coming here is to knock off the other arm. So a simple self-defense move by itself, if somebody grabs your wrist, either hand, you can use this to knock it off. Your hand ends up here because that's where you want it to go. So the interpretation of this move, that move, is basically grappling 1, 2, 3. It's sometimes some people interpret it like, well, there's a person here, I hit them and I hit this one. And it might be possible. But primarily, we're looking at dealing with this one opponent. Another interpretation for this move that is very beneficial, if you're approaching the person from behind. One of the self-defense movements we use, because you have this movement coming like this, is coming around the neck and pushing on the base of the spine for a choke. Or reaching around the neck and going between the legs for a groin grab and then pulling out the back. The twisting, anytime you twist in a form, but primarily anytime you turn 180 degrees or 90 degrees, then there must be something going on. You're using your body weight for leverage. If he just puts his hands on my shoulder, my first reaction, of course, is to turn and look. In this particular reaction, you turn and you spin. You have to have balance. So when you're actually pivoting, the hands are coming up. We're just knocking the hands off. So basically, it's a simple self-defense move. You spin, and you'll see where his hands start to go. I've weakened his position. I come up between, and I just knock the hands out. And then you come in to another left hand groin grab, or from behind, squeeze, twist, and a shift out. Now, one particular point in the form where there's a jump, basically we interpret that as jumping over somebody swinging at you with a bow staff. So he lifts his foot up, and then he just kind of jumps over and lands in a cross stance again. And one more time. Up a little higher. Good. You're practicing a balance move, just like any other sport. You're challenging yourself to improve your balance and not be off balance. I practice also from the cross stance, if you will, here. If you happen to be down in a cross stance and you position, a person kicks at you, you have to have good balance there to defend yourself from the ground. So that particular move is in there as well. So even though you drop down and the person attacks, you have good balance there. Your stance is locked in. You have balance in order to defend against that kick. So the Pyongan Odan has a lot of nice movements. The newer movements taught is the lack of hip action here, but now at this particular point, when you're years into training, you're getting the snap from close quarter here, getting the snap without having to use the hips. So, like I said, as you're mastering this form, you're nearing your black belt level. These self-defense moves are a little more devastating. Now we'll demonstrate at full speed again. Mr. Beveridge will demonstrate the Pyongan Odan. Attention bow. Ready stance. Ready. Eight. Attention bow. Nicely done. Here you have the Pyongan Odan.